Hey there, I'm Kristin with The Wayward Home, and today I'm going to tell you all about the very first project we did on this Sprinter van, which is install Flarespace flares. Now, as you can see behind me, these are fiberglass bump outs that you install on the rear quarter panels of a Sprinter van. You can either do this yourself or take it into a custom builder or a body shop to get them to do these, but what we did is a DIY install, and we did take it to a body shop for the paint matching, which is what you need to do. Today I'm going to walk you through how we did that DIY install so you can possibly attempt it yourself if you like, but we did choose to get these Flarespace flares as our first project because they allow you to sleep sideways in a Sprinter van. Now, I have a 144 wheelbase Sprinter van, which means it's smaller inside than some of the other ones on the market, the extended ones, and we wanted to maximize space inside the Sprinter. This gives us an extra foot of room inside the van, which is huge. We can use that for our kitchen unit, for sitting, for our table, for just hanging out in the van, and it's basically a queen size bed, and it's really comfortable and roomy, and we just love it. For this Flarespace flare install, Flarespace did send us this kit in exchange for an honest review. They sent us 2 Flarespace flares, their anti-gravity flyweight bed system, which is really lightweight, that we also installed in the Sprinter van and we're extremely happy with. So I'm going to show you that as well as our DIY install of these flares. Since we're nomads and have no permanent address, Flarespace sent the flares to a FedEx facility in Portland, where we were able to pick them up and stuff them into the Astro, our previous camper van. We decided to add on trim rings. These help you finish out the interior of the flares, and an interior finish kit, which consists of thin foam insulation, spray glue, and gray marathon fabric. We also chose these bunker-style windows, although you can also get awning-style windows from Flarespace. To complete the look, Flarespace sent us their brand new flyweight bed panel system to install and test. After we got all the materials home to Beaverton to my parents' house, let the DIY Flarespace install begin. The first step is to make sure the flares fit the van. The flares are made from a fiberglass mold, and it's important to hold them up against your van before getting them professionally painted. Ours fit perfectly, so it's off to the auto body shop for painting. Precision Auto Body in Beaverton, Oregon did a wonderful job paint matching the flares. It cost about $750 to get the trim rings and flares painted. After one more quick double check to make sure the flares fit, we were ready to start the installation. Tom punctured the 4 corners with a drill so he'd have a place to put his jigsaw. Then he started to cut, kinda scary with a new van. He cut from the inside while I held the panel down from the outside. He then filed the sharp edges and painted on primer to prevent rust. The next step was to glue the flares. Tom layered on a thick black 3M glue along the flange, and then we gently pressed the flares into the van. Blue tape would hold the flares in place while they cured for a couple of days. Flarespace recommends an outside temperature of 60 degrees, and we set up shop lights inside the van to increase the heat. The next thing to do was to finish out the interior, as Flarespace flares are just bare fiberglass. Tom first cut the foam to shape, then glued the insulation inside the flares. Then more adhesive and gray marathon fabric on top of that. Lastly, he cut out the window holes. Here's a quick shot of the interior kit finished on one flare, but not the other. It sure makes a big difference. The final step in our flare install was to add the windows. We got the half-slider bunk windows, which come with an insulated cover from VanMade Gear. I held the windows in place while Tom screwed them down. And that's it! Our DIY flares were installed. The next step in the process was installing the flyweight bed panel system. We first had to drill and rivet the structural steel in place, which is included with the kit. This long, flat piece of steel is what you'll drill the bed brackets into. Next, we installed the back 2 rear panels in our van made of 1/4-inch Baltic birch. We used paper templates from Titan vans as a rough outline to cut the wood. After the structural steel and wood back paneling was installed, we then added the 2 powder-coated bed rail brackets. This is where the 2 30-inch bed pieces will rest. To fit both panels in the back of our van, we had to trim them down a bit to ensure an even fit. Then our bed was in and we were almost ready to sleep sideways in our Sprinter van. We noticed the panels moved and sagged a bit under our weight, so Tom decided to install 2 fiddles forward and aft with a beam in the middle to provide structural support. Our bed was then super firm, just how we like it. And that's it for the bed panel system install. So far, we're really happy that we decided to put Flarespace flares in our Sprinter van. It's really comfortable, and sleeping sideways is great because it does add more living space inside the van. As you can see behind me, we are still working on the van. It's not complete, but we do have the bed in here and a table and a fridge and a place to hang out, so we can live in here for now, which is great. But I couldn't say enough good things about working with Flarespace and using their flares and bed system. We love that the bed is really lightweight, as we are trying to keep the van light for off-roading and overlanding. The one thing that some people might not like about having flares in their van is that when you sleep sideways, one person does have to crawl over another person to get out of bed. And I know this is a problem with some people. For us, it's not an issue at all. And I wouldn't choose a lengthwise bed just because we get so much extra space in this van sleeping sideways. So really happy with the Sprinter van flares. And we did do that DIY install, which worked out well. But Tom is an excellent builder and there was no need for us to hire anyone. But there are a lot of professional upfitters out there if you don't feel up to the task of installing your own flares and bed system. And Flarespace actually has a whole list of certified installers. They can recommend one for you. So that's also a really good way to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're able to go get some flares and start sleeping sideways.